welcome to Broken Entertainment. And today we're going to talk about how companies in the comic book industry can actually do the right thing and make a whole bunch of money. Um, One of the biggest problems with the direct market right now, which is, if you're not familiar, that is sales from comic book production companies to comic book shops. First of all, most of our sales numbers, as far as being able to try and track what sells in comics, is from the publisher to the comic book shop. So when you see, oh, well, Spider-Man sold 100,000 copies, well, that's 100,000 copies to comic book shops. And then comic book shops have to struggle because most of these books aren't selling and they can't return them. So once they buy them, they're stuck with them. And they're stuck buying a whole bunch of them because they have all these different variant covers. And if you want to get a variant cover, well, if you want this variant cover, you need to buy 30 copies. If you want this variant cover, you need to buy 100 copies, so on and so forth. Well, Boom Studios at the beginning of the year, well, near the beginning of last year, announced this. Boom Studios is committed to continually growing our relationships with partners around the world in all markets. We are distributed by Diamond Comics distributors into the direct market, Simon & Schuster into the U.S. book market, HarperCollins Canada into the Canadian book market, and Titan into the U.K. book market. We do not offer direct wholesale opportunities. We are proud to offer the Boom Guarantee Program, which rewards retailers with additional benefits including returnability, additional promotional materials, first looks at upcoming projects, and more with no cost to join the program. Boom lets you return stuff. That's big. That means first of all that the onus is on Boom to make books that sell. Because instead of saying, well, we're just gonna rig things so that comic book shops are guaranteed to buy our books, they have to make stuff that sells. Because if they don't make stuff that sells, they're gonna have it returned to them. And here's the other news from that. This was just recently. This is on Bleeding Cool. Boom Studios has increased sales to comic shops by 22%. Think about that. These guys are small. 22% is a big jump. And the rest of the comic book industry is struggling to maintain sales. We haven't seen all their numbers yet for this year, but we know they're down. We know that the comic book industry is dead for all intents and purposes. Manga has completely taken over everything. But to see a comic book company that is a tiny fraction of the market growing essentially exponentially, they're doing something right. And what they're doing right, other than making good stories and not focusing on agenda and politics, they're treating the retailers right. They're treating the customers right as well. They're saying, okay, you know what? You guys are struggling right now. If our books don't sell, send them back. Now, I've seen some details on it. It's not 100% returnability, but that's not unusual when returnability does exist. But they're saying we're gonna put that on us so that if we don't make books that sell, we're gonna get them sent back to us. So now they have to make books that sell. They can't just dump it on the comic book shops and call it a day. And in return, 22% growth. Now they had this message to their retailers in which they called them breathtaking because of their perseverance and continuing to try and struggle through the current situation. But it says they then pivoted to a victory lap about Boom's accomplishments in 2020. In addition to touting their record-breaking sales on must-read series like Wind, Seven Secrets, and we only find them when they're dead. The continued successes of hits like Something is Killing the Children and Once and Future and successful relaunch of the Power Rangers franchise Fair let retailers know what the publisher had grown their sales by 22% with comic shops in 2020 over 2019. And apparently, that's based on 10 months of sales in 2020 versus 12 months of sales in 2019. Then it says, I wonder how that compares to other publishers. Perhaps we'll find out by the end of the conference. Berserker sold. Okay. You're ready for this number. Berserker issue number 1, 615,000 copies. Not to comic book shops. To people. That's when the information was last directly available, that's about 6 times Spider-Man or Batman. Now, of course, a lot of that has to do with Keanu Reeves. But look at this list of hits, and these are genuine successes. These are not calling them hits because they fit a social agenda. No one gives Boom Studios that kind of credit like they do DC Comics and Marvel because these people don't care. But we only find them when they're dead. Wind, Seven Secrets, Something is Killing the Children. These are genuine successes. Power Rangers just made over $800,000 on a Kickstarter. And they just reopened it for late backers, and they're aiming for $1 million, and I think they'll get there. This is what happens when you make good stories. This is what happens when you make good art. This is what happens when you treat customers with respect and dignity, and this is what happens when you treat the retailers with respect and dignity. Boom is not out there. No one from Boom that I am aware of is out there calling anybody anything. Marvel Comics has people, DC Comics has people out there calling people horrible names because they don't like their books. Boom doesn't have anybody out there doing that. They're just making shit that sells. And they're not making shit that sells that is driven by agenda. They're not trying to make it into a Netflix deal. They're just making good comics. And I read a statement from, part of a video from Boom Studios, and the head of Boom Studios has a shrine to Superman in his office. And all he talked about for his entire presentation, aside from this success that they've had, and how awesome comic book shops are for struggling, he talked about how awesome comics are. He didn't talk about Netflix deals. He didn't talk about agenda. He didn't talk about politics. He didn't talk about any of that garbage that has destroyed the comic book industry. He talked about how much he loved comic books. That's why they're doing well. They genuinely care. They care about Power Rangers. They care about these other books. And it shows. If you're a Power Rangers fan, pick up any Power Rangers comic. And it's like stepping back into the TV show. It looks like the TV show. It feels like the TV show. Yes, it's a little darker. It's a little more grown up. But the characters are instantly recognizable. They're so well done, you can hear their voices in your head. They know what they're doing. They love what they're doing. This is what we need more of across the board in entertainment. When's the last time you heard somebody in Hollywood talking about how much they loved what they were doing? The most recent example I saw was Zack Snyder talking about how much he loved the fans for supporting him, how much he loved his vision for the Justice League movie and how he'd planned to do a trilogy. That's what we need. We need passionate people who are passionate not about getting a Netflix deal, not about politics, not about agenda, not about identity. Oh, did you hire enough of these people? Oh, you're canceled. Not about only black people can write black characters, only Latinas can write Latinas, but just only good people can write our books. Only people who are good at writing comics can write comics. And we don't care what your skin color is, just write the damn book. Because Marvel and DC are saying, well, no, we have to have, if the character is this skin color, the author has to be this skin color. What? No. You hire the people who are good. And in hiring the people who are good, you hire diversity by default. Because people who are good come from everywhere. But when you go out and you look for writers for your books, and you're going to make a new character called Ironheart, and Ironheart is black and from Chicago and has a certain hairstyle, and you see an author who has done a few random books here and there, petitioning on Twitter to get hired because she's black, she's from Chicago, and she has the same hair. Literally, that was the post on Twitter. And I'd have to hunt it down now, but that's literally what it was. And they hired her. Are you kidding? Just hire the people that are good at their job. And that's what Boom has done. In Boom Studios, you know what they have? They have a diverse array of people working for them. Because they go out and they hire the people that are good at their jobs and they care. And the result is Power Rangers. Power Rangers. Gonna hit $1 million. Power Rangers. I know a lot of people who love Power Rangers. I love Power Rangers, but $1 million in a comic book? Are you kidding? I mean, 615,000 copies of a comic book nobody's ever heard of before with Keanu Reeves. And you know why Keanu Reeves is popular? Because he loves what he does, and it's obvious, and he supports his fans. That's what we need. More of this. Less of the other crap. So if you like the video, hit the like button. If you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing to the channel. Hit the bell for notifications, and I will see you next time.